Oh, no problem, Dave. You know what I mean? Sort of thing. Help join in with anybody in that, and let's get the message across to
Stay
everybody
on
in
if you
that.
want, Dave. You're quite welcome to, mate.
Yeah, I think that we're trying to get the message across to everybody. Al, he's hard work at the best of times.
Oh, tell me about it. Oh, well, I'm on the streets next week myself. I'm in Manchester next Saturday. I should be there with Jimmy the Hat. Hopefully, Katie Swallow, John Lawrence, Rita Ricketts, and all the guys, Dave McDave, and all them, Dave Mac, and all the patriots, as we call them, will be out there on the streets as well. So I'm going up there to give them a bit of the Northern guys a bit of support.
Well done.
I should be doing some live streaming as well. So, because I tend to sometimes when I'm out on the streets, John used to do a lot of John Wedgie used to do a lot of the videos, and I used to step in and do one or two interviews. But now, more and more I've gone out and be home now. I'm starting to do. Well, I think I did. I think I did one with. Well, I did Jimmy. I filmed Jimmy at the Orchards with Carol Woods, and Jimmy was doing the talking, and I did the filming. And I turned to Jimmy, and because they distracted the staff at the front door, and she managed to come to a window and open a window a little bit, and she said, somebody said to her, "Are they injecting you?" And she said, "Yes." And I turned to Jimmy, and I said, "Jimmy, did you hear that?" And Jimmy was still doing the interview, and I was filming Carol at the time, and Jimmy was still on his megaphone, and he said, "Yeah." And I've done John Lawrence one last time I was in Manchester. I've done Brian Clare when I was in Sunderland. Where did I go in between? I've been to Scotland. I did the Beast with the Bell Tower in Scotland. That was one of mine with John and Sandy Smith. And that had something like, I don't know, the last I saw was over 8,000 views.
I find that going out to demos now, the numbers just aren't there, Al, and I have not got anything that you already haven't thought about. I've racked my brains on it. It's got to be a big master plan, and to get that big master plan across, my God, it's a complicated thing.
That's actually, Dave, that you don't know how close to home you are with that, what you just said, because it fucking haunts me. On the 16th of May, we were going to do one of the biggest demonstrations going, because I'll tell you why. We had the veterans with us, we had the bikers with us, I think we had the cab drivers with us, we had the Sikh Alliance with us, we had a lot of the child groups with us, and we had the backing of Tommy Robinson, Glenn Saffer, and quite a few others. And we tried to go through everything to please them. And in the end, they tried to make us do a risk assessment, get insurance, which was going to be ridiculous money, just for Parliament Square. And in the end, we just said that we're going to do it at Trafalgar Square, bomb. And then the next thing, we got Tommy involved, and they turned around and said, Tommy said, right, we're having a demo from Trafalgar Square to Downing Street, where we're all going to speak. And they were going to close Whitehall because of it, because they thought, as soon as they heard the name of Tommy Robinson, they thought it was going to be them in the thousands. And we were trying to get as many as we could. We were trying to get everybody, the proverbial demonstration that we need to make a massive impact. We was trying to get the numbers, and then we had to cancel it because of bloody COVID. And then we set it again for another day, and then we had more problems with draconian government measures. But we are still planning to do it. And we're going to make it, because we have got a lot of support. But it's going to take, like you say, Dave, it's going to take a hell of a lot of people to wake up and actually get boots on the ground. It's no good, you're having a demonstration in one part of the country and you multiply that by 5 or 6 different other places. All them guys need to come together for one mass demonstration and it needs to bring everybody, just stop the little ones, come together with one mass. Unless we actually get people in their millions and storm Parliament and turn around and saying, you know, you're out, and sit in the Houses of Parliament, we're not going to do a lot more than try to get a message out there. But how often have we got to get a message out there before we actually see something happen?
Well, I've always said that you got to play on the big stunt, haven't you? You know what I mean? Let's cut the nonsense. A big stunt is what it needs, with nobody being the leader and nobody being the organizer.
Yeah.
Individuals acting on an individual basis all up and down the country. I mean, yeah, fuck it, I'm going to say anyway. I almost pulled off Swansea to London, shutting the M4. Bush. You know what I mean? You don't.
Yeah.
I swear to you, Alan, you don't know how close I was to that. You know what I mean? I could have done that.
Did Dave, let me get me right if I'm saying this. Did only 12 cars turn up or something?
Any what?
Only 12 cars turn up, or was that something different? Or
Oh,
was
no, that was the thing for going down to the Welsh Assembly, wasn't it? Yeah, no. This was somebody that was Toot to Leave. What I was on about then, mate.
Oh, sorry.
You know, doing the bridges with Toot to Leave. You see, when you're on a bridge, it's very easy for the person on that bridge to actually slow that to that next junction down, to go and visit your comrade brother at the next junction in your car very slowly. It don't take long for a few brothers to be going eastbound and westbound for that to be shut down in a matter of 20 minutes. You can shut that motorway down, and it, you know, all the things were put in place to actually do it. And I you know, like I said, I hope that the M6, the M1, M5, M4, shut the fucking lot of it down.
Yeah, because I think what I'm getting confused with, Dave, is the fact, I think it was the M6. There was a protest on the M6, and only about a dozen cars turned up.
Yeah, that was the other day, wasn't it?
Yeah. Good evening, Sandy. I'll come to you in a bit, mate. Don't worry, I'm seeing you in, Sandy. We're joined by Sandy Smith, guys. So to let you know, Charles, Dave, myself, and Sandy. I was trying to get Paul Webster on because I wanted to have a chat with Paul, and just to see what Paul, because Paul is, I've been trying to get Paul on for a few weeks now, and I keep sending him the link, and then I've asked Jason if he comes in, can you try and help him a little bit? But I haven't heard nothing from Jason, so nothing from Paul Webster. So we'll carry on talking amongst ourselves where we can. Charles, have you got anything new on the horizon, or telling us anything new that's happened? Or have you seen, I think there's a protest in London today with, I don't know if they're Shia or Muslims or they're Asian, or an Asian group, I think it was doing a demonstration in London today. And the police were coming down quite heavy, but other places I've seen over the weekend, it's not been so harsh as previous weeks.
I don't know. Might have been yesterday. I've seen a video or a comment about it or something. Some outside the Indian embassy, I think it was, or something. You know what I mean? The police were there. Oh, if I didn't watch it, you know what I mean? So I think they're interested in that. But yesterday, as we're talking on Sean's show, like, you know what I mean? The police never showed up. It's been burning.
I did come into the chat room.
I don't know towards the end, if you know what I mean. When is it some adult finder or street, whatever his name, the ones I was watching his stream, like, you know what I mean?
Apparently somebody was saying, Charles, that a memo had gone out to the police to turn around and say they need to pull it back in, rein it in a little bit, because at the end of the day, Piers Corbyn got off his fine that he got in Hyde Park.
Yeah.
So he could turn
thing.
around. You could turn around and say, if we talk about common law, you could turn around and say you could use that precedence of Piers Corbyn and turn around and of Piers Corbyn, yeah, and of Piers Corbyn, yeah. Brian in? You in, Brian?
Yes, I am.
Okay,
Yeah.
just sorry, Dave. Let me come back to you in a minute, Brian. Dave, sorry, I missed that. What did you say, mate? Dave, you there? Dave? He was saying something about Piers Corbyn and then it went off. And I don't know what happened to Dave.
He's muted and
Yeah, I know. I'm trying to ask him if he can hear me. I can't hear him because he's muted him still, but he might be able to hear us. You still there, Dave? I'll just say good evening to Brian while I'm trying to get Dave back. Good evening, Brian.
Hi, everybody. Hi, Andy. Hi, Charles. You all right, Andy?
Yeah, we were just talking about this weekend. There's, I don't know if it's today. I think it might have been today. That there was either today or yesterday. The Muslims were doing something, or the Asians were doing something in. I don't know if it was Regent Street, and there was, or Trafalgar Square, and they got pushed to Regent Street.
Yeah, it was a farming protest, wasn't it?
Yeah, and somebody were telling me in the week, and I think I actually mentioned it in the chat room where Charles was on with Sean on Saturday. There was supposed to have been a memo going out to the police to rein it in a bit.
Mm.
And as I say, Piers Corbyn has just won his court case. And I think it was in Westminster Magistrates. Was it Westminster's or South Kensington, Charles?
Westminster.
Westminster, where he got off of the fine, didn't he?
Yeah.
So that in itself, if you're talking about common law, you can say that he's made precedents in that case where he's virtually got off of it. So that's got to say something for all the other fines that people have been getting and the draconian measures that the police have been taking with their batons and Christ knows what. And I'm surprised. I've never ever seen as many female police officers as I have done in the last since the lockdown, since all this rubbish started. I've never seen so many police women.
What amazes
I didn't know there were so many in the force.
What amazes me is where have they all come from all of a sudden when the police are supposed to have like there's not many recruiting, you know what I mean? Where have they all come from? And this is where, I mean, this would be one for Charles, I should think. And this is where I'm thinking, are they hiring private firms?
Yes.
And yet again, that reminds me of one thing: the mines strike.
Some of them had, I don't know if it was Serco or Group 4 on the back of the high-vis yellow Metropolitan Police uniforms. So whether they could act as police officers or it was totally unlawful, because the laws for a police officer or the oath for a police officer can't be the same for a security guard, because all they were was hired security guards with Metropolitan Police on their backs.
Then it comes in how the recruiting and stuff, you know, in my opinion. I mean, I'm not an expert on this, you know. But
well, you look at the millions that's been spent with Serco, and that says it all. Then they're a complete shit outfit, and shit are running the prison service and the court ferrying backwards and forwards. But they're the same as Group 4 or G4S and Serco. They're all much the same. How they keep winning the contracts that they do? They run the prisons, the jail services inside the police stations now. They do the food and the locking up and everything of the inmates, or if you want to call them, or the people that have been fined or brought down to the police station, and then all their operations units, like their staff are all civil staff now. not police like it used to be all police.
I think, I mean, it's like it's like years ago when I first started campaigning for what I do, you know, it's like there was good rapport with the police.
Yeah.
There was really good rapport.
Good bit of banter.
And you had your own local neighbourhood police that got to know you and stuff like that. I found certainly on the last 3 or 4 protests where I mean, this is away from the COVID carry on, you know, that like the one in Newcastle, the police were really heavily handed, you know, and I don't know how they're getting away with it. I mean,
but that was as good as gold when me and you were in Sunderland.
All right, well, that's the liaison officer. That's the one.
They were absolutely brilliant. I think in the circumstances, you know, like I was standing there advertised like a teapot, and Paul Webster sent a message. I don't know what's going on with him. I tried to get him on, and he says, "I'll take it. I'm not on tonight." And I've been trying to get in touch with him, so I don't know what he's up to. So
I'll try and message him for you if you want, Alan.
Hey,
I'll try and message him for you if you want.
Can you be? Do you better get him on?
I'll try.
Yeah, try getting him on because I've been waiting for him to come in. I give Jason his phone number, and Jason has been sending him the link. I sent him the link, so and he just turned around and sent a message to me. I'll take it. I'm not on, but as far as I was concerned, it's 7:20, and we were anticipating having him on at 7. So if you can, Bri, I'd appreciate it.
I'll give it a good try because the canny lad, Paul.
See if you could get in touch with him, Bri.
I will. I'm trying now, mate.
Good lad, good lad. Sandy, good evening. Unmute yourself, Sand, and you can have a little chat with us.
Oh,
how you doing, Sandy?
Not too bad. It's always better when I unmute myself. I always keep forgetting that, but you know, it's beginning to get a bad habit with me. But no, I'm doing brilliant, really. Aye.
You had a good turn at was it Saturday?
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Was it George's Square?
Yes. Oh. You know,
tell us a little bit about it, Sandy.
It's just the same as usual. Well, I had
Was Robert there?
Pardon?
Was Robert there?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
He's now Charles. I don't know if you know Robert. Is it Spur?
Robert Spur.
Robert Spur.
You know him, Charles?
Yes, I was up there in his court cases in Glasgow against the government.
Now he is a brilliant common law campaigner.
Yeah. Well, I actually gave him in his court case the Rice v. Connolly, and he used it.
You often talk about that Rice versus Connolly in a lot of cases, don't you?
Well, yeah. Well, it's law. You can't.
Well, yeah, we know it's law. We talk about legalese and stuff like that. And we've gone through, you know, no harm, no loss, no injury, and stuff like that. But you need a case precedent, and that is one Rice versus Connolly. We know.
Yeah.
So you could turn around and say, Charles, now Piers Corbyn, his case could be turned around and said Corbyn versus whatever it might be, the state, wherever it was.
Regina.
Well, he got off with his fine for being fined in Hyde Park. Hyde Park is a park. It's a public place. Now, obviously, the judge must have thought, well, actually, at the end of the day, he was in a public place. And this is where the rules for the police have come down so hard on people. You're not supposed to do this, and they're taking the letter of the law. It's only regulations and guidelines. And Matt Hancock is facing so much crap since coming on board since the 19th of March, when he turned around and said, you know, they didn't even know what it was, and they classed it as a severe flu virus. That was the only virus that was mentioned there, a severe flu. That was the 19th of March, 2020.
The thing is, with Piers Corbyn, you might have got it a bit wrong. Why he had the first charge dropped was he got given a dispersal notice. Because he didn't go away, they arrested him.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The judge dropped it because you have 28 days with this
Yeah.
dispersal notice,
Yes,
£60
you are absolutely
fine,
spot on.
pay. So he didn't have the time to this 28
I
days.
do remember it now. I am so sorry about that.
No, yeah.
Everybody out there, Charles has just put me right, and he's actually spot on, because it was the 28-day dispersal notice.
Yeah, and the £60 fine.
Yeah, the 60, whatever it was to do with that 28 days, it hadn't elapsed or something. Was that right?
Well, about an hour later, whatever it was, they arrested him.
Skin of his teeth, wasn't it? Or like, was that a fingernail job?
Yeah, so, but, you know, but
But you need
it's
more
lawful
judges to stand
proceeding
up.
in law. So
Sorry.
basically, he's made it a law anyway, sort of peer, because basically now you've got 28 days, so you don't have to go. So they can't arrest you because you've had no time to pay the fine or appeal against it and all this lot, you know what I mean? So, but, you know, good day. Plus the second one, you know, I mean, he got away with that as well, because, you know, the judge really couldn't do a sort of thing. Because basically...
He's in a court again, isn't he?
Oh, he's had
He's in next week or next couple of weeks. I think he's got another court appearance. Yeah.
But you see, one of the reasons they'll drop the second charge, as they did, an absolute discharge, if you know what I mean, right, is if they find him or did out against him, he appeals, right, as Delroy says, and then that's in higher court, and all the factors, you can bring all the facts into the court and into play, sort of thing. So that's why they found him guilty, absolved him of any fine or out to stop him going to an higher court on appeal.
Well, we talk about this, don't we, about civil action and criminal action. Now, if you've committed a crime, right, who have you hurt, lost, or where is the hurt, loss, or injury to anybody? You've got to hurt somebody or commit a crime, either physically hurt or injure or harm somebody, right, to make it a criminal case, haven't you?
Yeah.
So
it's
why
like
can they?
Why?
Yeah, but how can they fine you for being on a public footpath in a public space? Well, let's not pay any council tax then, because if we can't use public places, what the hell are we paying council tax for?
But like I say, what they've done, like I say, we're giving the absolute discharge, found guilty, but we're not going to fine you or give you a, because then he can appeal against them, sort of thing.
You there? You there, Charles?
But if they had done...
Your internet went off a bit, Charles. I didn't hear that last bit. His internet's been playing up for a little bit now because he was doing something. Was it yesterday that his internet went off yesterday? He went out and came back in, but his internet plays up a bit, doesn't it?
Oh, it's...
Yeah, you're doing it again. He's doing it again. His hands frozen as he was going to wave to say something.
Yellow.
You hear me?
Oh, we're back onto white.
You there?
Yeah. I'll refresh.
Speak to me, Charles.
I can hear you.
You can hear you. You're all right then. Oh, good lad. So, what was you saying, Charles? I didn't catch that bit because you went off a little bit wobbly.
Yeah, I know it's a bit unstable at the moment.
Yeah.
You see, then he can appeal, you see, and then he could have the government over breaking the Human Rights Act, right? That they're not allowed to stop you, you know what I mean?
This is a good point as well, Charles. Well, while we're talking about this, right now, let's just make this clear, right? This country signed a convention on human rights, right? So it was like a United Nations Declaration on Human Rights, correct or wrong?
Yeah, 1948.
1948. It was amended in 1998 by the Blair government, correct?
No. In 1950, with the Treaty of Rome, on the 4th of the 11th, 1950, which is the European Human Rights Act. It's called the Treaty of Rome. That's your Human Rights Act.
Yeah, but that's not been changed, right? Up
No,
until 1998, was it? Because there was a. They tried to change it in 1998, didn't they?
Well, yeah, you know.
We're
But
not talking about, because you've got two human rights. Let's not get us confused here, because it is confusing a little bit. You've got the United Nations Convention on Human Rights, right? And you've got the European Union.
Convention of Human Rights, the ECHR.
Yeah.
Which is now called basically the Human Rights Act 1998, which is primary law in the UK. Acts and statutes is about 3 miles below it.
Yeah, we know that. But I mean, again, see, even the European Human Rights Act. Now, if I'm right in saying so, correct me if I'm wrong, because I am not totally there yet. In the 31st of December, we leave that, don't we? The European one.
No.
No, we don't.
No. It's what you're talking about is the European Union's fundamental charter of human rights.
It gets confusing, doesn't it?
Separate. It's total separate.
But it does get confusing. There's quite a few of them, isn't there?
Yeah. But basically, in a theory, we lose the European Union's fundamental charter of human rights. The European Convention of Human Rights has got nothing to do with the EU. Totally separate bodies. And that's where people get confused or mix it up, sort of thing. So in 1950, you got the European Convention of Human Rights, ECHR. Then 2007, I think it was, or whatever it is, you have the EU's Fundamental Charter of Human Rights.
It gets confusing because, like, I don't know how you actually do it, because not only do you remember all the said dates, you know, I mean, you go back to when you talk about 1215, the Magna Carta. When we talk about 1300 in Sandy's case, the Arbroath Agreement. And then you talk about the Battle of Runnymede, 1600s, and then there's other dates like 1066, and or you know, there's so many dates, so many different groups, and so many articles to name just a few. Do you know what I mean? Like if you go down the human rights articles 1 to 18. There's quite a lot of different articles on what, I mean, like, don't you have the freedom to roam, the freedom of speech, the free child rights and everything else in that?
Yeah, all the charters, conventions.
But they put them in articles, don't they?
Yeah.
It's trying to remember all the article numbers. Sandy knows them all, don't you, Sandy?
I'm a Brady guy. I employ people to remember me.
well, Charles, he's been doing it now for a while.
That's it, you know.
He amazes me, but I tell you what, I love listening to Delroy on a Tuesday night. I mean, I tune in quite often, and I go into the chat room. And I've been on once or twice with Delroy. Charles is always on there with him on a Tuesday night. And Charles pops up every now and then. He's pulled something out. It's like a rabbit out of a hat type of thing. He pulls these things out. He does a lot of research and studies. And with you taking on the Supreme Court as well, and how's your case going, Charles, with the Navy?
I don't know, I'm still waiting for the Supreme Court to reply, if you know what I mean. But there again, as I say to, you know, my Ukraine girlfriend, and I mean, obviously she asked, I say, the thing is, there's 4 kilogram of case files, you know what I mean? Loads, but that, 10 cases, and the Navy one of them 10 is 4 separate cases, if you know what I mean. So basically, you know, it's a lot of work for them and that, you know what I mean. And I try and say to her, you know, that I don't know what it could be doing. They could already look through them, gone through, and it's a minimum 5 judges to make a decision, or the grand jury are 12 sort of thing judges. So they could be looking, they could have wrote to the Navy, say, you're going to lose this case. Are you going to, you know, pay out or whatever? I don't know. I'll just have to wait. But the end of the line is, as you know, listen to me and Delroy, is basically they got to make a decision either in my favour or wipe it out, you know what I mean, government favour. But either way, I'm a winner. Either I get paid out or the refusal notice, and then I can take it to the International Human Rights Courts, who will actually give me the cases. And I point this out to the Supreme Court, you know what I mean, because it's up to the national courts to implement your rights. And if they don't, you just got to show the, you know, European Human Rights Act. Look, Article 6, 3D, where's the witnesses? Now, I have been busy last few days. I mean, these documents are all here about the Navy, court-martial cases. They all say you're entitled to have witnesses to come to court. But they're not fetching witnesses, they're not coming. The Navy respondent, which is the Ministry of Defence, doesn't turn up. All his acolytes, all his crux people writing in his name, or the malicious falsehoods. They're not coming into court. So basically, the court case should be given to me. I mean, it's all in these documents here and that. But this is how corrupt our court systems are, sort of thing. The gatekeepers, me and Delroy call it and that, you know what I mean, which is known, gatekeeping, acting for the government, where they're not. The rule of the law, the rules of a judge is to act between the corrupt government and the people, sort of thing. Not to act as gatekeepers and the, you know, representatives of the corrupt government in your cases, you know, like your cases, Sandy. Judges have to be neutral, no, show no impartiality, everything, sort of thing. This is where you attack them and that, you know what I mean? But
Yeah, I
these,
think Sandy might be on the crest of a little bit of a wave, if I'm right in saying that, Sandy. I mean, I don't know how legit it is, but when I was having a conversation with Sandy earlier, you know, we were talking about what was happening with his mate, Nicola Sturgeon. The greatest First Minister of Scotland.
Oh, God.
they're getting engaged.
They're going to announce the marriage soon, I'm sure, and they're going to be in George's Square one Saturday. They're going to meet in George's Square to announce it, I'm sure.
Oh, I've all the screw there. I've got to for that big day. Oh, not. Oh, God.
Will you wear your kilt?
Is that pretty, Bri?
Yeah, could I ask a question, Charles?
Yeah, of course you can, mate.
Well, it's quite complicated, Charles, right? So we've got all these cases at the minute in the High Courts going through the High. I mean, I'm only because, as you know, we win the High Courts in 2000 on the case Lister v. Lister. You know the litigation law.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lister v. Lister. It was based on that we won the case, right? But because my field's obviously against paedophiles as such, same as Sandy, but Sandy's a lot more experienced, yeah. But the thing is the amount of court case what's getting lost now, and where the courts are throwing them out, but there's enough evidence. And then a while back, I don't know if this is linked, I come across something called the King Henry VIII laws. Are you aware of what they are, Charles? King Henry VIII laws. This was about a year back. I put something up saying, well, are these laws coming in after we leave Europe? You know, and the very totalitarian, you know.
Right, let me just, Brian, do me a favour. You guys just talk to yourself for a minute. I'm just going to try and get in touch with Paul because Paul just messaged me. So if you guys can just handle the situation for the moment? Can you just talk amongst yourselves?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like I say, what I've noticed since, like, certainly since the 90s to now, the lack of compassion by the likes of the CPS, and I mean, in a way that makes sense, because of look who's leader of the bloody Labour Party now. Now I've come across Stormont during my case. Yeah, he had something to do with CPS. I've got the letters there. Yeah. Now I know for a fact, Charles, I've got stuff here where Stormont has said certain stuff, right, which he had no right to say, if you know what I mean. I'm probably complicated by which way I'm explaining it, to be honest. But what I'm noticing is it's. I mean, I know with you, Sandy, Scottish law is totally different from English law. Yeah. So I'll base this on English law. Yeah. Is the amount of cases what's getting thrown out, even though the evidence is there. I mean, this
That's actually, you know, you shouldn't be worried about, you know, if you throw your cases out, this and another, because basically you just appeal. They can't stop you appealing.
They're losing.
Pardon?
But all the appeals are not going through. They're losing.
No. Well, basically you ask for the judgment and the judgment papers and that. So and by law, they have to send them to you. So then you appeal that then send it to an higher court, which will be the Supreme Court. If you're in the higher court now, it'll be the Supreme Court. You make the representation to them.
Excellent, Chuck. So in my case, right, even though we didn't win it through the law, you know, through the police and that, because of their neglect and malfeasance, yeah, right. Does that mean I can appeal, even though the case was the 90s? Does that mean I can appeal that I believe that the case wasn't right and I've got the relevant stuff to prove it?
Yeah, because basically one term you can use is discovery, new documents, if you know what I mean, new evidence and all this lot, you know what I mean? But that's how some of my cases, Brian, one of them goes back to 1979. Well, I mean, Navy ones go back to 1979 and that, if you know what I mean. But with new evidence and all this lot, discovery it's called, sort of thing. You just put them in, and basically you just need them, basically try and knock you back, say, you know, you're out of time, this and another, but you're not out of time and that, because then you put in that, you know, the judge, that the case was due process, which means unlawful, that the process of the court case was, you know, corrupt and all this lot, if you know what I mean. There's many ways you can do that. You make it due process and that, you know what I mean. And basically all you need is keep collecting their knockbacks and go to an higher court. And that's what I said earlier on. I'm not interested in the Supreme Court, basically, how can I say, knocking me back, saying, no, sorry, Mr. Spencer.
Is that because there's higher places you can go?
I just want that rejection of my case from them. And then I can go to the international courts.
Is the higher court or the international court the higher?
International.
International, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Right, so if Brian says, like, have you gone through the higher court, Brian?
Yeah, we went to London. It was the same time as the Raymond Loaf case. Can you remember the lottery rapist?
Yeah.
It was round about the same time. And I think, and to be honest, I think it was the same time as the Blair brothers as well.
Bloody hell.
So it goes back a long way, you know.
It does go back a way.
You know, but it's like, I know our case in England actually changed the process for anybody to go forward, because part of it was we made sure that people didn't have to pay the court costs. We made sure that nobody had, that everybody, I mean, this is about compensation. This is the litigation side. Yeah. We made sure that people didn't have to pay the court costs. We made sure that people actually got access to the files, not legal, but obviously care files and stuff. But this is what I'm saying. This is how disappointed I am after all this time. Is how the CPS and the law have completely changed them rules round. You know, and this is with substantial evidence.
Yeah. See, another avenue you can do, Brian, is if you make a complaint and they haven't, investigated the complaint fully or to your manner and that.
I did.
That is.
I did. Sorry, Charles. I
breaking.
didn't mean to interrupt. Sorry.
Oh no, but no, it's okay. Then you've got them there, you see, because recently, last few years, there've been many cases in Strasbourg and all this lot where people have made complaints about the investigation against the police and they never investigated, or they give you we've investigated it, but we found no wrong, well, it's thingy, and you can use these court cases exposing that.
What it is, what it is I've got, Charles, is actually documents from, they're not here, you know what I mean? But I've got documents, right, which is stating from the Director of Social Services at the time to stop the abuse, what was happening with Witherwack, this was afterwards, right? To stop and then later on another letter by the very same director saying continue as normal. Well, at the end of the day, that's him verifying just to beat the kids up, just to continue doing what you do. And I've got that.
Yeah, sort of thing.
Well, that's evidence, isn't it? That's evidence.
Yeah, sort of thing, and that, there's lots of ways you can tackle. One of my beauties with the Supreme Court, though, is on the 14th of August, 2008, Judge is on a Justice what's his name? Moore in Sheffield issued a court case. It was ASC 53021, a human rights case, this and another. And he said, because it's a human rights case and it's all been the boxes ticked, the human rights boxes are all being ticked. It's an highly and serious human rights case. It's going to the Royal Court of Justice, this and another in London. And by the 1st of September 2008, the defendants, which was the government, Home Office, Home Secretary, 2 police forces and others, if you know what I mean. So they submit the defence sort of thing. So on the 8th of September, me and my mate went to the Royal Court of Justice from Rotherham, had received nothing at all. No defence, nothing, and all this lot. So we went to the court officers and I said, excuse me, as the defendants in this case, sort of thing. I gave them the Sheffield number, case number, but they changed it to their own in the Royal Court of Justice. No, nothing's been filed. So actually, when we got called into court, there's only me, my mate, the clerk of the court, the judge, and the usher. And he threw the case out straight away, a human rights case sort of thing. His name was called Macduff, Justice Macduff sort of thing. But what I say to the Supreme Court at the moment is, and I call them the Supreme Court brackets UK 0110-2009, because they took over from the old Supreme Court. They moved out from the Royal Court of Justice into the building now opposite Parliament Square, the old GLC building. So I say, I cannot blame you for that 2008. That is a serious crime. But under the law, you are responsible for your predecessor's crimes in that case. And I'm giving you the final chance to put right your predecessor's wrong, or it goes to Strasbourg, and you'll have to answer to them people. But you see, they think they're so clever, you see, in what they're doing, trying to block. So that Judge Macduff obviously will give you a lordship or something, block this case. So I think, that was in 2008. But they don't realise I keep all the documents and that. And I served them actually into the Supreme Court saying, what you're going to do now. That case was listed under the European Human Rights Act, 1998. So no witnesses, 6.3D, blah, blah,
I know in my case, pre-1990, there was no solicitors firms set up on how to deal with survivors. Like how to get to know them, how to how to understand them, you know. And then you probably have heard of this firm like Charles ACAL, Association of Child Abuse Lawyers.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Lee Moore, I knew Lee through the Middlesbrough cases and obviously Sue Richardson, you know, and gradually I got to know Lee, and I sort of put a lot of effort into ACAL, you know, and now what I'm finding is ACAL are getting 90% of all cases. Well, surely that's biased.
Yeah. Oh, wait,
let me just, Paul's just said something. He said the European Court of Human Rights does not apply in the UK. We never signed up to Article 1, which voids all other articles. Does that mean anything?
No, we did sign up for it.
We did sign up for Article 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought we did, because it's got, when I've looked on it, it's got Articles 1 to 18, I believe it is.
Yeah, well, there is others than that further on. There's Article 42.
But I've seen Article 1,
and
I've seen Article
judges,
2, 3,
courts.
4, 5, 6, 7, and 8.
Yeah, sort of thing. We did sign up and all this lot. And also, Article 13, I think they've missed out. That's remedy, you see. Article 13 is remedy. But Article 1, I mean, does whoever wrote up this know that it was Winston Churchill's Lord Chancellor, Justice Minister, who made the ECHR? He wrote it all up and all this lot, if you know what I mean, brought it into the force, same as the UN Fundamental Charter, no, Universal Declaration of Human Rights, 1948. The same Lord Chancellor wrote all that up, sort of thing, you know what I mean, sort of thing. But Article 1.
I'll bring you in a minute, Sandy.
Yeah. Obligation to respect human rights. The high contracting parties shall secure to everyone in their jurisdictions the rights, freedoms defined in Section 1 of this convention. And that's why all these illegals coming over on the life rafts things get treated as they do, because they come in, as soon as they get within 12 miles of the British coast, they come under the jurisdiction of the UK government.
Hang on a minute, Charles. So our boundary between us and France is only 12 miles.
Yeah.
Right? So a lot of other countries, they have something like 3 tiers. Well, not tiers, but you have 3 rings. You have like an inner one around your island, you have an outer one, and then you have another one where you've got international water, so on and so forth. It gets quite confusing, and we're going back to days of Admiralty law there.
No, because they're international agreements. Basically, on some parts of our coastline, we got 200 miles of fishing rights, sort of thing. But the main one is 3 miles, and then 12 miles. Technically, the EU boats can't come in within 3 miles. They can do 3 miles to 12 miles fishing.
So if we've got a 12-mile between us and France, French can only come 3 miles from France to our waters.
Yeah.
And then they're in international waters, or they're in.
Yeah.
Is there a boundary in international water where ships can go unaided, like, I don't know, say it was a tanker or a bigger ship, a container, or whatever it might have been, can go in that middle bit, and then you have the British side. And if illegals got to that British side, they were okay.
But they're international agreement.
Yeah, but isn't there 3 parts to that waterway? International waterway.
But like I say, you got out to 3 miles.
Yeah.
French fishing boats can't come in.
Yeah.
Right.
So that allows you 12 miles left in. No, sorry, it's 20. No, yeah, 12 miles. So it's 9 miles.
From 3 miles to 12 miles, they can come in.
Right.
Even the sort of thing. But then we've got another zone of 200 miles called the economic area for fishing and minerals and all
Is that
this lot.
Scotland, above Scotland?
Oh yes, Scotland and Northern Ireland and all this lot. Cornwall extends out from Cornwall and that 200 miles into the Atlantic.
You can go 200 miles from
So-
Cornwall, can you? Past the Scilly Isles and
Yeah.
everything else.
Yeah, but they're all international treaties and that, if you know what I
Okay.
mean.
So it
Convention.
seems strange, well, because you've got places in between there, haven't you? You've got islands in between that restrict the waterway, whereas in some places you haven't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but actually in the English Channel, in the Dover Straits, it becomes different because you've got shipping lanes where the
Yeah, that's what I was
ships
trying to
that
say
are
to you
going to-
about the shipping lanes. When you were saying about, you know, like your maritime lanes, your fishing lanes, or your cross, because it's like a highway, isn't it?
Yeah,
And because I've gone out in boats from Wharton on the Naze when we've done fishing trips, and he said when we've gone out, he said we have to be very, very careful here because we can't fish between a certain period of space because it's shipping lanes.
yeah.
Paul Webster said we have no European call. This is because we have not. I was going to bring Paul on tonight, so it would have been open. Let me just open this up and have a look. So he's saying we have no European call. This is because we have not signed up. And that is why the European parliamentary directives that are there must be third-party liability insurance to cover the fraud on mortgages. Gonna have to disagree, brother. Stay. Does that mean anything?
Yeah, he's entitled to his opinion and all this lot.
I have put the link out in the side chat for Paul or anyone else who wants to use it to jump on. There's also a phone number that I posted. Where you can dial that phone number, then enter the meeting ID number and passcode, and then you're in. So.
I don't think he's got Zoom, Jay.
Yeah, you can just phone in. There's a phone number as well.
Oh right, because he, I think he's. Is it StreamYard?
StreamYard's something entirely different.
Yeah, he's trying to do something. He's got something like that. So
Yeah, but that's like but StreamYard is a totally different product. It's nothing to do with what we do. But if he doesn't want to use Zoom to connect, he can just phone the phone number that I've posted.
Oh, right, okay. Well,
when you phone the phone number, it'll ask you to enter a meeting ID number and a passcode, and I'll put those in there as well. So anyone.
I did say that to him. He doesn't have to pay anything. He uses the numbers to get in.
Yeah, just phone call. Yeah. And most people get free calls, don't they? So,
yeah.
Especially at weekends.
No, I just thought I'd add that, Charles, because Paul Webster was going to come on the show tonight. We're going to have a little bit of a chat about some of the interviews, because he's a great interviewer, Paul, because I quite enjoyed. I think we had a problem when we done my interview. Brian's done. I'm not sure if Brian's done a couple with him, but Sandy doesn't know him, and it would have been nice for Paul to have got to know Sandy. And they could have had a bit of a formal chat on the show tonight. Do you know Paul yourself, didn't you?
For me?
Yeah.
No.
But Paul's done a lot of interviews with a lot of guys, a lot of survivors, and so on and so forth. And he's done quite a bit of the guys that are out there. Who's that trying to get in?
That is Spear Throwers clicked on the link and come in, so we know it's definitely working.
Spear Thrower.
Spear Throwers here, yep.
Evening all.
You there, Spear Thrower?
Yeah.
Hiya, how you doing?
Not bad, not bad. Are we all cold tonight? You've all got your worry hats on.
There's a reason why.
Oh no.
Hey?
Secret sect.
No. Sandy's got his special hat on that he wears when he's out on the streets. He does that. It's a special hat he does on his demos.
Right.
And I was the Welsh Connection come on after us, and Kimberly has kindly sent me one of their badges. It's like a pin, and it's like the stud type things.
Right.
And yeah, she sent me a couple of badges because I've got some badges made for. That reminds me, badges. I've got to write that down. Jimmy the Ant wants me to get some badges for next weekend if I can.
I've been watching Jimmy the Ant today down in London.
Was he
Not
in
London,
London?
Manchester, sorry.
Yeah, he's in Manchester. Yes, right, because I spoke to him earlier.
I get confused though. I'm watching a few protests today. One of them was in London.
Yeah, that was that the Muslims or Sikhs or
It's like the Punjabis, the
Punjabis. They're doing
yeah,
something to do with the farming.
Join
or
the
something.
meeting.
yeah, it's like the the big corporations are buying up the farming land, and
That's
it's
right.
kind of putting them. It's stiffing the people that are there, which are mostly like the Punjabis. But yeah, most of them are like the Sikh. But you won't see the coppers kicking off with them because
Yeah,
they
I
know
was
that
quite
all.
surprised at that.
Well, no, I'm not. If you're faced with an enemy who all carry
Alan, you've
daggers.
got, sorry to interrupt you, you've got Paul Webster phoned in now.
He's here now.
He's
You
here.
Paul?
Say hello.
I
Hi,
hope
Paul, you
so.
there?
I hope so. Am I
Oh,
here?
glad I got you on. Glad to have you on. It's nice to have you on. Honest Live, we've got Spearthrow, who's a good guy. Sandy Smith, who's a fantastic campaigner north of the border in Scotland. And he's linked with Quarriers Warriors. And Brian's in with us. And the fantastic common law specialist, Charles Ernest Spencer, that I get on very, very well with, him and Delroy.
Yep.
You were saying a couple of things. I'll come back to you in a minute, Spearthrower, but I just want to bring Paul in for a sec.
Sure.
You were saying something on messages to me about the European courts.
Yeah, we've had correspondence when we were taking on a certain subject, and the barrister that we were dealing with was very, very cocky about stuff, and the stuff that we'd put in regard to the European Courts of Human Rights, he was very despondent with it. He wasn't interested. And then he put something in a letter that we've got that said, you can do what you like. We didn't sign up to Article 1. Now, if we didn't sign up to Article 1, that means that none of the European Court of Human Rights, as it stands...
Who said that?
It's the guy who I'm working with. We've won at High Court with council tax. He's done other things beyond what I've worked with him on. Yeah. And I've seen the document that stated from a barrister. It wasn't a court letter. It was from the solicitors and from the barrister, and said, you can do. He basically said, you can do what you like. We didn't sign up to Article 1. None of what you're stating applies. Now, when we tried to address him on that, he tried to back down. Yeah. But my understanding of it is we don't have a European court. We're the only ones who had 1 foot in Europe and 1 foot out of Europe. So our government decided, or our bankers and government decided, that because of the mortgage fraud that's going on in this country, they couldn't afford to have a European court. So they were going to leave it in Europe, because if any of us try to jump to Europe to get these people, they turn up at Europe and go, oh, they've not done this and they've not done that and they've not gone to county court, all that kind of rubbish.
But the implications, Paul, the implications of the European Court and the United Nations Court have got to be similar, haven't they?
No, it's a different jurisdiction. It's commercial jurisdiction, so it's all corporate. The European Court of Human Rights isn't based on man. It just isn't. And that's why they manipulate it. And that's why they change it as they will, because it's all about agreements. It's not about law as such. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, what you're talking about, 1948, that's all spot on. That is a totally different jurisdiction. We're going into corporate commercial jurisdictions. When we go into this, you're a Mr., Miss, Mrs., driver, doctor, whatever title you want to call yourself.
Yeah.
But you're being dragged into a commercial jurisdiction. Now, when we started to investigate the mortgages and stuff like that, there's a lot of people doing many, many different angles. on mortgages, but I can only talk about what we concentrated on. When we looked at the European Parliamentary Directives of 2006, I think it's section 88 to 120-ish, talk about third-party liability insurance. And that is because the banks that facilitate credit for mortgages must take out third-party liability insurances. But they're not telling people that these insurance policies exist.
Paul, can I just let Charles come in for a second, just to answer a little bit? Is that okay, Paul?
Please, yes, please.
Go on, Charles. I'll open the mic up to you.
All right, I'm looking for the signatories for Article 1 sort of thing. I'm listening. If you carry on with Paul.
Okay, Paul, carry on, Paul. Sorry, mate. I was just seeing if Charles wanted to interject with you with what you've already said.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Charles finds those signatures, I'd be more than happy to take those signatures and take them back to my team, because the correspondence we've had was a barrister who, he's not an underling. He's a proper. We're in a proper case. I can't divulge too much because it's still ongoing. It's still ongoing. But he was so cocky, and he was so dismissive. Do what you want. If you're going down that route, it was like that.
I get where you come with that, Paul, because you get that with a normal judge anyway. They're so dismissive. Soon as you walk into court, anything you say was got anything to do with patriotism or sovereign or common law, they just do not want anything to do with.
It's all commercial. It's all commercial. You're dealing with commercial law at all times. This is what I've been trying to explain to a lot of groups, because of this COVID bollocks that's going about. They're talking about, police are issuing fines for having unauthorized gatherings, too many people in the house, issuing fines for not wearing a mask. Police cannot issue fines.
Right.
They can offer agreements for a notice of a penalty. So if you're not wearing a mask and I think you've been a naughty boy and I'm a policeman, I'm going to say, I think you've been a naughty boy. What's your name? If you give me your details and sign my ticket, I will give you. Yes, but not only that. You're
agreeing to the contract. You're contracting.
No, it's not a contract. It's an agreement. That's what you've got to understand, the difference here. It's an agreement you've agreed to and you've signed. So what you get is a receipt for the agreement. And the top bill of exchange is put into a county court / bank. And it's put before a banker / judge. And he sees the agreement is fulfilled.
That doesn't have any merit, though, does it, Paul?
It's what, sorry?
That doesn't have any merit, though, does it?
It does, because you've agreed. That's what I'm saying.
Right. As soon as you've opened your mouth and said, you understand, you're falling into the realms of what they want.
No, well, technically, it's not about just giving your name and address, because constitutionally, I can give my name and address. But if they want to use that name and address to give me a ticket, I have to sign for that, and I have to agree. If I don't sign, guess what? No sign, no fine. That's how this stuff really, really works. So when you've agreed to it, you can go to the court and you can appeal, and the judge can see the agreement's been made, but you're here, so I'll listen to you. Now, if you've got a good enough reason, he can play about and say, do you know what? I'll let you off. But you've already agreed, and that's what the principle is about this. If I hit you, crime. Steal from you, crime. Damage your property,
we see this so
crime.
much where people fall prey to this in every way, shape and form, where they just straight away, they start talking.
Yeah.
And in agreement to everything the police say, and before they know it, I mean, I would be tempted to try and walk away.
As long as you don't sign, there's no fine.
Hang on a minute, Paul. Let Spearfro just come in a second. What are you going to say, Spearfro?
Yeah, I was watching a video yesterday of a guy was two guys. There was, I think, were brothers walking the dog. They were swooped on by, looked like about 10, 20 police.
Yeah.
And he said absolutely nothing to them other than, "What's your number?" He took all the numbers. He said absolutely nothing to them. They still arrested him. They still arrested him, and they found ID on him. I don't know whether he signed.
I think I've seen a video where a guy's walking a dog in a park. I don't know if it's the same one. And there was two coppers. There was one. The woman was the loudest, and she was doing exactly the type of thing. But he kept walking away and walking away and walking away, and it was a confrontation. They were confronting each other, and it was a bit of verbal and blah blah blah. But we kept walking away in a disagreement way.
Yeah. This guy he just ignored them.
Yeah.
They still arrested him. I've got the link somewhere. It's on Based Welshman's website, YouTube channel. And it looked like they're in the middle of nowhere. The track that they were on was just about wide enough to get a van down, I think.
But Paul's right in what he says.
And they arrested him for breaking COVID regulations.
Yeah.
I don't know what the result
regulations.
was.
This just seems a nonsense to me. When
he did exactly the right thing, though. He said nothing to them.
The thing is, what can be regulated? Business, commercial. That's
exactly. I hope he didn't sign anything because he did nothing wrong. He handled it exactly how he's supposed to.
I don't think he did. This is what I saw, Spearthrow. I don't think he did. I think he kept walking, didn't he?
I'll find the link and I'll drop it in.
Charles, do you want to come in and say anything? I haven't forgot you, Sandy. I'll come to you in a minute, mate. Charles?
No, Paul is right there about it is an offer. A policeman can't find you. He can make an offer to you, sort of thing. Only a judge can fine you, sort of thing, sentence you or do anything to you. So I think that's where people all go wrong. Same as car parking, ticket wardens and that. They can't fine you and that. They can make an offer to you. If you want to accept it, that's up to you. You know what I mean? You want to be stupid, well.
Yeah.
So on that stuff, you know, Paul's quite right. So it's an offer.
Now, this signature thing that Paul's been talking about, do you know something where you might be able to help Paul, or is there something that you might be able to ask Delroy tomorrow night when you do the show with Delroy? You might be able to find out something more about it, or have you got more on this?
I've got it all wrote down somewhere, if you know what I mean, the signatories and that.
Now, you're normally pretty good because if I have a conversation with you, you normally turn around to your filing cabinet behind you and you pull papers out like you're, pulling rabbits out of hats.
I've got many sort of thing, but actually that, if you know what I mean, sort of thing,
because I can message to Paul and get in touch with Paul, and Paul vice versa. I can try and get Paul to link with you, and then you can talk another time, because I find, someone like Paul's valuable, and yourself is, it's brilliant. And the more heads we get around this, and the more we talk about this, and the more knowledge we know, the better we become.
Yeah. So
yes, I agree.
I've dropped the link for that video in the Zoom chat.
Can you show it?
I can share it, yeah.
Can it be shown so we can all see it? Have you seen it, Sandy? Sandy, have you seen it? No, he ain't seen it. I don't know if you can. How do you put it up on screen, Charles? Do you know? Or does Spearthrow know how to do it?
You go green button, on the green button at the bottom with an arrow, press on that screen share, and press on top for screen share to others. And it takes you.
I'm not co-host.
Can you do that, Spearthrow?
I'm not co-host.
Oh, right, you need to be a co-host.
Yeah.
But if you listen to Delroy and that, and I mean, I've said it as well, what Paul's saying, it's like when you get a summons through the post, it's an offer to go to court.
Well,
so
no, I think it's
basically you rebut it within 3 days. You're right. Sorry about your presumptions, assumptions, this and that. I rebut your offer, sorry, this another, and you put it back to them, sort of thing, you know. It's only an offer to appear into their court and go into their, you know, house of horrors and all this lot, sort of thing.
Now, I just want to. Oh, there we go.
Right,
No,
can you see
Oh,
that?
you got it. Well done.
Right.
Lane and take a left towards Langthorne, just along there.
They're still refusing to cooperate.
You'll make life much easier for yourself, lads, if you just give us your details. Yeah, in order, just if you can give us your details. Sorry, I missed that. Did you say you're on the 6055?
You can see it's in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah, so take the left. I think that's Bowbridge Lane. Is it past Ainsley Miners? To the end
This
there,
might
and
be
then-
the one, Spearfront, because I remember the woman's voice.
Right. Well, that's a cop can. The one behind it is a cop van. Another one turns up as well.
Thing is, that copper with his hands in his pockets can be done. They're not allowed to when they're doing a charge against hands in their pocket, sort of thing. And they must have an axe on, which is another thing in a show video. You didn't have the axe on when doing to the person, if you know what I mean.
I've heard of that one before, where somebody's got off of it because the police officer didn't have his full uniform on.
Yeah, hands in pocket, full uniform.
Just refuse it and you go on yourself. Just refuse it.
Sorry, I was saying, do you want to come back this way, Luke? I was just worried someone was going to come flying into the back of you.
We'll sit and interviews just getting back there.
I was saying, do you want to come through this way?
No, I got no, I said it was a sergeant task. No, so he did it was
Sandy don't want to do it. It's the same.
and I didn't ask how to use the technology.
Three. That's three of them.
That's the one man. Or one man and his dog.
There's four cars there. Yeah. Land Rover, police. We're not done yet. Another one turns up.
It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Have you seen this, Paul?
No, I've not seen this. If you're talking to me there, pal.
Yeah, yeah.
I wish people had learned how to film in landscape.
What a fiasco.
Yeah.
It's possibly a trip to custody from Harrogate.
That's paedophiles.
Threatening to take them to Harrogate strip searching.
It's a good job PD can still deliver.
You know, I force a tour.
Yeah. This guy makes me laugh.
Where have you guys been? You're not going to tell me. What have you been up to? Nothing so involved.
He said,
All I'm asking is your name, what you're up to.
I can't tell what you're saying with that gid mask on, mate.
yeah.
Where you guys came from? What's the
No
dog
hats
for?
on, so he's unlawful.
What's the dog for, he says?
Your dog? No dog? Friend's dog? No?
Walking, isn't it?
I'm being nice and polite with you, mate. I'm just asking you some questions. What's your name?
This is exactly what Paul was saying, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'm Tom.
Yeah.
You are...
Another one.
Can I tell me my own info?
They really want you to contract with them. They really want you to agree with them now.
They do, don't
yeah.
they?
Yeah, you say house.
We were saying this, though, Paul, earlier on about contracting and the groundwork. Do you understand this crap that they come out with?
Brothers.
Do you have a lead for the little dog? It's stopped wandering in the road. Excuse me. Do you have a dog lead for your little dog?
That's what you're doing?
What's your number?
Sorry?
What's your number?
69 Livermore, right there. And there. Yeah.
What's
Here,
yours?
I've told you who I am. Can you please tell me why you're here?
What's yours?
Sorry? You need to tell me because we're in a lockdown. So you're breaching
Swing it, Rottweiler.
Because I believe you're breaching those regulations. We'll just arrest you. You get to tell us why you're here? No?
To protect and to serve.
Question?
Are you wanting to be arrested or are you just going to give us your details?
But you're not telling us why you're here. Are you going to tell us why you're walking down here?
Got nothing to do with you, love. Swing it.
Yeah. Time you're under arrest, you do not have to say anything but mayhem. Your defence if you don't mention one question, literally.
That's the fucking killer.
Evidence.
You have the right to remain silent.
Boom. The problem is, with the right to remain silent, they arrest you under pace for not giving details, right? Which is bollocks because you're basically going to be arrested for your right to remain silent. But they're working under corporate commercial law. The Mr., Miss, Mrs., blah, blah, blah. It's everything we've always known. My only, it's not even beef, if you like, but my only beef with the free man of the land stuff, right, is because people are going into commercial courts and saying, I'm a man. Why? You might as well stand in front of your fireplace and say that, because that's ridiculous. It's absolutely the wrong jurisdiction, the wrong arguments, and what has always galled me is that within all these acts that we say don't apply to us, right, within all the acts is our remedy. It's the same with the bills of exchange. I work a lot with the bills of exchange. Gas, water and electric, national debts, you can't pay for them in a debt-based economy. So if you act as creditor, you've got to get the correct negotiable instrument and you've got to endorse that and give it them back. Now the obligation is on them. Now, if they say you've not paid us, you've got to hold them to task. And the only way that I can see that going forward is to take out an injunction against these people because it stops their shenanigans and then it forces them to obligate. It forces them to act because as a claimant, you'll get your day in court and you'll present it and you go, this is what they should be doing because this is what I've done. This is my obligation. I fulfilled it as a creditor. What are they doing under the bills of exchange? Nobody's done that because they all argue about contracts. You've not got a contract with a utility company. That's straightforward. You get an agent. If you're private, if you've not got a business, if you've not got a shop or anything like that, and you've got a house, you are now not a customer, you're a private person. No, I knew I said person. You're a private man, woman. Now, what that means is they've got to interact with you differently. So they've got to send you a different negotiable instrument. I've seen people trying to endorse commercial instruments, which is a paying in slip. That's no good. You can't sign something and change an instrument into something else. It's not that magical. They've got a specific instrument. British Gas always sent me the correct instrument, so I endorsed it and sent them back. And that's what caused the issues.
Are you talking in terms of being addressed by name in a different format?
No, not necessarily. This is where I have to, and I promise you guys, I'm only going off my own experience here, but from my own experience, I can see when they interact as commercial, they're trying to say that I'm living in a commercial property. So when you address Mr., I have to try to get around that. Doing I've no contract with you doesn't work. It's absolutely a waste of energy and time to start saying either I have no contract or, in my opinion, by the way, I have no contract. I'm a free man. I do, blah, blah, blah. It doesn't matter. When you were born, you were registered in this system. Your national insurance number is your employee number.
But your assistive EA is altered, isn't it? Or
and when you get to 21, the age of consent, you can choose to be creditor or debtor. The system guides us down the galley slave debtors route. So you have no rights until you declare them. Well, if you're still declared dead and you don't know how to declare yourself alive, apart from standing in the commercial court saying, I'm a man, then it's not good enough. It's so simple. It's totally not good enough. But then the opposite to that is, well, how? How do I declare myself alive on paper to say, do you know what? In this Monopoly game, that's my little dog. I don't want to participate in this bit of the game because you're going to try and steal things off me. And it basically is the game of Monopoly. I've landed on a train station. I don't want to go. I don't want to buy a ticket. I don't want to travel anywhere. But somebody says you owe us 200 quid. Why? Because you've landed here. Yeah, but I don't want to do anything with you. So I'm not negotiating with you. I'm not engaging in business. So I'm just going to move on. Can you do that? Of course you can. Can the manager of B&Q come running out of his shop and drag me in and force me to buy a hammer and some nails? No, he can't. So why do the courts think they can do that? Because it's all based on presumption. And if you don't interact with them, they presume. When you interact with them, especially if you turn up, you're there for negotiations. If you don't know what you're talking about, ignorance of the law is no excuse. And that's business negotiations. And you've got to understand all these business negotiations all come under a concept of martial law because it is maritime law. So if you fuck about in business, they're going to punish you militarily, and especially if you take anything out against banks or councils or government, because you are now challenging the very foundations of what they say is the foundations of the country. So I've been involved in constitutional groups. I'm a minor consultant on a group that's already served the constabularies. But I said, if you want to make a constitutional challenge, you can't go to private corporations as the police in different jurisdictions. You've got to go to the 3 branches of government and notice them. You've got to serve on them. So it's the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary. The judiciary allow or control, shall we say, the police's actions. Section 26 of the Criminal Courts and Justice Act state what a police constable's authority is. If they go beyond that, they're facing 7-year custodial. 5 years ago, we saw the Tactical Aid Unit of Greater Manchester Police red key a door on behalf of bailiffs. Do you think they're in breach of Section 26? Yes, they are, but they're acting under a completely different jurisdiction. And then when we try and bring common law in, we're ignored because we're standing in the wrong jurisdiction, and none of us And I mean none of us, because we would have done it already, but we are working towards it. But none of us have got the correct jurisdiction. And I know for a fact there are good people still in the judiciary. There are good judges, there are good barristers, there are good people who want to help. But what they're saying is, I've got so much invested in this, you better make it watertight and I will carry it for you.
Let me come in a minute, Paul, because when you're talking about Admiralty law, when 70% of the world was covered in the ocean, and then the Admiralty law moved to a common law and onto the land, right?
Yeah.
And I can hear, and I appreciate everything you've said, and you've been very, very vocal, very, very strong, and a lot of what you say makes really, really good sense, really, really good, and you know your stuff. I want to bring Charles in, because Charles is obviously looking for something, and he's trying to find something in his records that he's got there. I don't know if he's still looking for them signatures, what he was going to get to you, Paul, but I'm going to try and bring Charles. Charles, are you there? Charles? You broke up. You had that problem with Sean the other night. You still there, Charles?
Yeah.
Oh, God, he's got on the dial again. Sandy, you want to come in for a minute, because you haven't had much to say tonight, and I've really got to come around the table a little bit and speak to some of the other guys that are in the chat room. Sandy, have you got anything you want to say?
Yeah, no, we were talking there about this, keeping quiet and whatnot. It's like the other week here, I was talking about last week in the show, with the police sending me in emails and phone calls about organising events in Glasgow.
Yeah.
Now, on this, they wanted me to phone them, email them, or better still, this was the thing, or better still, come into London Road Police Station and meet with us. Now, if I had went to London Road Police Station to meet with them, or even done anything, if I had to get in contact with them, that's me virtually admitting, yeah, I do organise these.
It's what Paul was saying, Sandy, in the fact that them people, like them liaison officers or liaison constables, it's the constables on the ground that are gaining the information for the officers. The people are going to give you the fine.
Yeah, you know, it's true there. I mean, if I had to get in contact with them anyway, that's me admitting, yeah, I do. Now, there's no organisers here. I want to make this clear.
Yeah.
Nobody organises these events in Glasgow every week.
I think we touched on that as well. Paul did.
We know they're on, so we go there. You know, we know it's on 12 o'clock Saturday. There's a plug, you know, but anyway.
But that's a ridiculous way to carry on anyway, to start picking out and singling people, because you've been noted for being in George's Square in Glasgow, that you should suddenly, because I'm not being funny with you, we know they've got the information on us anyway. And they know all about us from AMPR and whatever you want to say, because when we was talking about another thing a little while ago, you, with the AMPR thing, you was slightly at fault for getting kind of like we've been saying tonight, you came round to their way of thinking, or you was persuaded to open the letter and contact them via that.
Yeah, because it did happen one time later. It was for a speeding thing.
Yeah.
It's changed.
But you agreed with them, so you like.
Well, during the letter.
Just going to let Paul in. Paul, did you hear that?
Just say that again, because he broke up a couple of times. Can you just repeat it?
What Sandy was saying.
What Sandy was saying, he broke up a couple of times.
Oh, sorry, there. It usually does when I speak. But it was a couple of months back there, and it was a letter Jane received in for a speeding fine. Well,
yeah.
Jane drive on the insurance as a driver.
Yeah.
And it was for speeding. And they wanted to know who the driver was, so Jane sent off me. Then I received this thing in for the police. I have been named as the driver. So Jane said already put me down. So that was more or less, that was that sign you'll delivered. I had it. So that's me. I was lumbered with £100 fine and 3 penalty points. But
Yeah.
I don't know how I
Right.
You opened the letter, Sandy. What happened was they got you as soon as you opened the letter because they got you round in the sense as once you opened the letter because it had a PO box on it, it had everything on it that when we talk about postal unions and everything else and fraud and so on and so forth. You came round, they had you, like we've been speaking tonight about, they tried to win you over, they tried to get you into that contract.
Yeah.
So
Well, that's how you're better when they do anything. No contract, nothing. Don't take anything to do with them. Keep silent. No.
thanks, Brian. Brian's got to go, so thank you to Brian Clare. So we couldn't get much more of you in, Brian, but we had quite a few people on tonight. Paul's still here. I've got Sean in here somewhere. I don't know if Sean's listening or he's just listening to the chat.
I'm in here, Alan. I'm here, brother.
Have you been listening as well, Sean, to what's been going on tonight?
I've just popped on in the last 10 minutes, brother.
All right, Sean. I'll come to you in a second, Sean.
Yeah,
Charles, do you want to answer any of the what Paul's been saying, or because you've been listening quite on the quiet side, which is not like you, to say the least. But before I go over to that, I'm trying to get Paul, if I can there is sometime, can you and Sandy change, get information to each other or a mobile number? Because I want Paul to speak to Sandy about Quarries.
About what, sorry?
He was in a children's home called Quarries Orphans Home in Scotland.
Yeah, yeah,
and
of course.
It was very, very bad. And I would think if you did an interview like you have done with me and Brian and so on and so forth, Sandy is a good candidate for that.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to do that, Paul.
And I just thought you could have a little informal chat first, and then we'll take it from there. I'm just going to say hi to Sue. Sue's just joined us. She was late on duty. I thought you was going to go to bed early, Sue. You muted, Sue. You muted, Sue. You muted, Sue.
Sorry, I've just woke up and I thought I'd come in for the last bit.
All right,
and you can piddle off you. Sandy Smith. Wait till I get hold of him. That's him, Sandy Smith. He's in for it when I get hold of him.
Yeah, you tell him. Sandy, you're in trouble. Right, I'm just going to bring in Charles because it's important because the girls from the Welsh Protection are going to come on at 9 o'clock. So, you know, I've got to be fair with Kimberly and everybody else and Adele and Lucia and so Lucia and Charles, do you want to answer some of what Paul's, because Paul's been very good actually. Listening to him, he makes a lot of sense. Oh, no, you've got it again. You've gone like a Dalek. You've gone like a Dalek.
All right, go out and come back in, Charles. It'll be fine then.
Charles, can you go out and come back in? He's gone off. Paul, you there?
Yeah.
Are you still there, Spearthrower?
I am.
Yeah. Have you been listening intriguingly?
Yep.
Have you got anything to add, or would you like to say something, or?
Not really.
That video that you showed of the guy walking
about contracts. You know, he's right. I think Del touched on that as well. About you've got to get in the right jurisdiction, and most of the time you can take the legs out of the corp just before you even get into it.
And I think Paul was actually speaking about that earlier on. I did really want Charles to come in.
You're sounding like a robot, Alan.
My speaker's not working. Can you hear me, Sandy?
It's the Rona coming to get us.
Can you hear me, Sue? Can you hear me?
No, that noise is because Charles has come back in. There's a problem with Charles somewhere on the line.
Oh, blame me. That's it, Jason. Oh.
Well, Charles, if you can mute and we'll see if it stops. See that? Oh, Charles has left. But yeah, no more crack. I mean, he's still here, but he's muted and there's no more crackling. So what was happening there was feedback coming from Charles. I don't know what you might need to reboot your computer, Charles. I think there's something wrong with your computer. Try and turn it off and back on again, maybe, if you've got time. That might.
No speaking now, is there?
Oh, you're okay now.
Yeah.
It's working now.
Blaming me.
Ah.
There we are.
Tap, Jason.
Who was it then? It was Alan. Maybe it was Alan. Alan's gone, hasn't he? So.
Anyway, here's the thingy. Oh, it bloody went off. Anyway, what I was showing you there, actually the UK government did sign on the 4th of 1950, the Human Rights Act, and also Article 1 sort of thing, you know what I mean? So,
19 what, sorry?
51.
Yeah, the European Court of Human Rights, the articles that were signed for Europe, we didn't sign up to. That's nothing to do with 1951, in my opinion. I'm more than happy to.
It's actually on the European Convention of Human Rights website and all this lot, you know what I mean? But what's happening is, as you've already said, Paul, on, you know, you talk about court cases and all the issues and that, it's getting into the right jurisdiction. And that barrister, and I've met others, if you know, barristers, solicitors and that, don't want to know anything about the human rights or anything. All they want to do is acts and statutes. Do you know Article 42 of the European Human Rights?
No, tell me.
Well, basically, what that is, right, that you can take courts, judges, any public authority to court for their
jurisdiction? What jurisdiction,
the
though?
Human Rights Act, 1990.
I know. Yeah, but European Courts of Human Rights is a commercial jurisdiction. Your Universal Declaration of Human Rights is not commercial. It's based on man and woman. That's what the difference is. Everybody thinks that European Convention of Human Rights is for human beings. Well, if you actually, you know, you'll know yourself. When you actually discuss what that means, it means nothing other than commercial instruments. And that's, in my opinion, that's where we've been lost. We've got lost at sea, but we don't understand that. So we stand in a commercial court saying, I'm here. Yeah, you're here for commerce, you're here for business. So we're going to presume that. And the fact you don't know that, ignorance is no excuse. So sling it. And that's basically what they've based all the premise on from, as far as I'm concerned, the mid-1980s where there's blame, there's a claim came in. That's what they're all about. And now we're starting to realise that we're challenging on so many different levels and different angles. That's why I don't sit or stand on anything and say, this is what you must do, because do you know what? When there was fracking going on at Barton Moss near me, I had people coming into work telling me and moaning how much they'd been delayed. I said, do you realise those people that are chaining themselves up to things are actually protecting your water table that these people want to decimate and make you dependent on? Oh, you're a dickhead, you Webbit. I went, okay, just wait, it'll come out. 10 years ago at work, people used to go out the way to put tin foil on their head and walk past me and go, Webby, dickhead, mandatory vaccines. Guess what? Those people with tin foil now say, you were talking about this 10 years ago. I went, yeah, but I'm not clever, I'm not ace. Do you know why? I read the list that they wished to do. That's how simple this bollocks is.
Paul, it's Jason here. We've got Alan back. I don't know whether I've missed Alan asking you, because I've been a bit distracted during this last stream. I've been cooking dinner for my daughter and stuff. But I know that on YouTube, your name is the Webster Report. So,
yes.
As I haven't asked you yet what the Webster Report is, I mean, for the uninitiated, do you want to give us a breakdown of where people can follow what you do? A brief rundown of what you do, why you do it. I mean, do you have a YouTube channel? Are you on Facebook? Do you have a website? How can people follow what you do? And why would they want to follow what you do? For the people that have not heard of you, and I admit,
do you know what? I don't know. I really don't know why.
No, I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean, for the people that have not heard of you, it's like for people that are saying, people that are watching this going, who the bloody hell is this Paul Webster? You know,
I'm happy with that. Do you know what? I'm happy with that. What gets me is it's when people go, "That's a load of bollocks," and I go, "Have you read this?" No, because I've got a life or Love Island's on.
Yeah.
Well,
maybe tell us why people say that. You know, what do you do that's so outrageous that people tell you you're talking bollocks? Is there something that is controversial or something?
Yeah, no, it's really straightforward. I told people that the gas, water, and electric were free in a debt-based economy because you cannot pay debt with more debt. So, seeing as you've been incorporated into this system and you've accepted national debt, well, let's break down national debt just for simplicity. Gas, water, and electric, national debts. You can't pay them. What are you going to pay them with? Nothing. But you get your cash, you get your check, you get your debits, and you go, I'm going to pay that gas bill. Okay.
Yeah, but having said that, Paul, there's an argument that might say, well, look, there's a stopcock where you can turn off the water, or you can just choose to not turn on the tap. So therefore, you're not becoming a consumer. You can even turn off your electric, and you can turn off your gas, and therefore you're not receiving and taking delivery of that service or that product.
But why wouldn't I take service of what I own? Because that's what happened when we went in to debt-based, because we went bankrupt. We've been bankrupt several times. So what is that based on? It's based on the people. The people have to take jobs in this system and work, but as a creditor, you're meant to set off certain debts. You could set everything off. Set everything off.
Okay, if there was no money coming in from the people that are using the gas or the electric or the water, who would pay the companies that treat the water or collect the gas from the North Sea or generate the electric? How would they be paid? Because there's staff there. There's a cost for that. How
Easy.
I've just put a link in the side chat to your YouTube channel.
Because there's costs there.
I've just subscribed to it.
There's costs there that would need to be met in order for you to be able to turn on the light switch or turn on the tap.
No, see, that straight away, you are thinking of it completely wrong, because you're saying there's a cost. Okay, if there's a cost, I got to pay it. What are you going to pay it with? What are you going to pay your cost with?
What I'm trying to say, though, is that the people who work for the water company, or the people that work for the likes of British Gas or N-Power for electric, if these people wasn't being paid and didn't turn up to work in the morning, it wouldn't take very long for you to stop having any electric. If the power station hang on. If the power station had no staff, it wouldn't take long for there to be no power being generated. So for them people to carry on doing that, they need paying to turn up at work in the morning. And that payment comes from the company, and they make that money by taking money off of you. If you stop paying that money, where does the wage bill come from? Where does the... Because people won't work for free. People won't go to a power station and do a day's work for free. People won't go and fix gas leaks for free. People won't go to whatever water companies do, water plants. They won't turn up and do their work for free. You know, they need paying.
They all do, and we all do. We all turn up and work for nothing. I get 30,000 promises a year to work for. So I go out and I promise to pay for my Mars bar. I promise to pay for this. I promise to pay for that. But at a certain point, if the economy collapses, the bike I've paid for, the car I've paid for, they're going to say, you've got to give me my car back because I can't use your promises anymore because the economy's gone. So I need some physical wealth. Well, that means you're going to have to give me the car back. If you're not giving me the car back, I need potatoes.
So you've exchanged money for promises, but
there's no money. There is no money. You haven't exchanged money for promises.
Okay,
have
so
you?
Paul, I'm going to rephrase the question. Okay, when you get asked to pay your promises in return for the services you've received, as much as water, gas, or electric, those promises, you call them promises, I call it money. You know, it doesn't matter what you call it. Those promises are going to that company, and they then pay promises. They pay 30,000 promises a year to the gas engineer or the person who works at the power station. Does that not?
No, it's so off that you cannot pay anybody anything in a debt-based economy. They all work for nothing. They get promises. They get promissory notes to be able to go and exchange somewhere else. So let's say the economy's working.
At the end of the day, what I'm trying to say to you, whether you call it promissory note, whether you call it pound notes or dollar, whatever you call it, whatever currency it might be, there's an exchange. Whether you exchange promissory notes or whether you exchange money, there's a certain exchange that has to take place. And the exchange is that you receive a product, and in return, you have to give something. And if you don't give something, that product will stop being supplied to you and being available to you because the people making it available to you aren't receiving what they require in order to make that happen for you. Whether you call that money or whether you call it promissory notes. At the end of the day, if the person that turns up to work every morning and makes sure your light switches work, checks his bank and sees nothing in there, guess what? He ain't going to work there no more. And if no one goes to work there for their reward, whether you call it money, whether you call it promissory note, if they don't receive that transfer, then they're going to go somewhere else to get that transfer, and the product won't get made and delivered to you. Does that make sense?
So
what I'm trying to say to you, Paul, is whether you call it promissory note, or whether you call it money, or whether you call it Mars bars, or whether you call it gold, there's an exchange. Okay, there's an exchange that needs to happen. You know? The
exchange has to have value. You talk about money. That's gold or silver.
Yeah. Okay, you're talking on the internet now because you're using electric. That's giving you a value. You're sitting in a warm home.
Hang on. I've got to cut you off because the gas, water, and electric grid that our ancestors built went into bankruptcy. So our ancestors took on those debts that you can't pay in a debt-based economy. So the grids, and please don't go into privatization because it's only the operating management. The operational management has gone into privatization. The grid is still ours. We own that. However, legislation, man-made legislation, particularly the EU Withdrawal Act, if you read it, Parliament are now sovereign. So that's changed the jurisdiction to a corporate dictatorship. You are no longer a voluntary employee. You are an employee. Let me finish. Because of the debt for the gas, water, and electric grid, that's all in place. The reason that you can get these benefits is you take a job within the system, whatever that job is, and you get promises for that job.
Paul, would you agree that the people that right, the people that go in their car in the morning and go to work, that do a job that ensures that we can have gas, electric, and water. Hang on, Paul. I've not finished, Paul. Please don't presume what my question is without me finishing my question, because you're not going to answer my question. You're going to go on to something else that's not relevant to what I'm about to ask you. Okay, there's people that work in these industries, and they do so because every month there's a transfer put into their bank. Now, I'm sure, like most people, you'd agree, if they stopped receiving that transfer into their bank, they would not go to work. Okay? So they need to, that transfer into their bank has to be made to ensure they get out of bed in the morning and go and make sure we've got gas, electric and water. So that transfer that gets paid to them by their employer, the company, whatever that company might be, they have to make a transfer into the bank from their bank. So my question to you is, who puts that money in the bank for them to be able to transfer it to people so they can go to work? Because if I'm not putting it in and you're not putting it in, and Sandy and Spearthrower and Charles and everyone else is not putting money in that company's bank, they're not going to pay their staff. The staff aren't going to go to work. And when you turn your light switch on, nothing will happen. Okay? It's really, really simple. It doesn't matter if you call it money.
Oh, it is. It is really simple.
It's a transfer. It's a transfer of wealth. Whatever
a transfer. Hang on. A transfer of what? A transfer of what? You keep saying.
A transfer.
Hang on. You keep saying money, right? You can't transfer money in a debt-based economy unless you have wealth, right? Okay. So you're not going to promise to pay a bill. You're going to pay it. We can't pay it. We cannot pay it. So the system devised an instrument. It's called a negotiable instrument under the Bills of Exchange. Now, if you run a business, you will get a bank giro credit slip. That, for a business, is a paid-in slip. So it's got the account number for you, and it's got their account number that needs crediting. So what you'll do is you'll put, for a £200 bill as a business, so you run a shop, you've got a £200 electric bill. You put £200 promissory notes, cash, debit, blah, 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 check to that, which will balance it for the debtor at the Treasury. But if you want to balance it as a creditor and you promise to pay your gas, guess what? A promise does nothing with your obligation.
Okay,
so interest.
You receive 30,000.
I've not finished. So if you promise to pay your gas with your cash, check, debit, you do nothing with your obligation. So interest is added to your gas debt, which sends the national debt up, which causes interest. And the government step in with austerity to take things off you. You are taught by your parents to not settle your obligations because you don't understand it. They don't understand it.
Right. If you want to take yourself out of the system completely, Paul, what you do is the people that pay you that 30,000, I think you call them promissory notes every year. Okay. I presume that when you receive these 30,000 promissory notes, that's as an exchange for you doing something for somebody.
Yes, of course it is.
What you do to take yourself out of the system is you say, I don't believe in any currency. Don't pay me. I'll go and do it for free. I don't want that 30,000. I don't need it. I'm going to go for free. The same way that you'd ask the call you get or the gas safe engineer and the person who works in the power station, all to say, don't give me any money. We'll work for free. Because
that's ridiculous. That's ridiculous, mate. That's not what I'm saying.
It is ridiculous.
That's not what I'm saying. But it's not what I'm saying.
So where do the companies get what they give these workers? If they're giving the workers something.
What companies are you talking about? What companies are you talking about?
All of the utility companies.
Name one.
British Gas, Empower.
British Gas, brilliant. British Gas, I've dealt with British Gas, a £2.3 billion company in 2012 when I started with them, right? British Gas have two obligations. They have revenue collection from businesses, which is the debtors' side of the books at the Treasury, because they've been given a contract by our government to retrieve revenue from businesses who have to pay, and I put pay in speech marks, have to pay for the debtor for gas, water and electric. As a creditor who's taken on the debts of the nation for your private house, gas, water and electric, you cannot promise.
Right,
you are not a business.
Really
I've not finished. You cannot pay as a debtor, but you can settle as a creditor. There are two sets of books at the Treasury. There's a creditor's books and there's a debtor's books. When you hit 21, you can choose to be a creditor or a debtor. We are taught from cradle to work hard and pay your bills. If I pay for my gas, that's a promise to do something with an obligation I've got, which sends interest on the national debt. National debt goes up. Government legitimately and legally takes shit off me.
I still don't understand where all of the utility companies, where do they get the money they pay their staff? That's what.
It's not money. It's not money.
It's money. What do you call it? Okay, what do you call it? What do you call it rather than money?
Currency.
Where do they? Okay, I'll rephrase the question. Where do the utility companies get the currency that they transfer to their workers?
They get the currency, right? Currency is just energy. But if you want to talk about the promissory notes, they're supplied by the Bank of England.
So the Bank of England pay British Gas to pay their staff.
Which is no, Bank of England pay nothing, mate.
So so if they're not paying British
Gas, do you know what? You're not listening. You're not listening,
guys.
You're not listening. The currency, they print it. They print the fucking currency.
Jason, can you hear me?
British Gas don't print currency.
Jason, can you hear me?
Oh my word!
I can hear you, Alan.
Oh my word!
But British Gas don't print currency. You know.
Paul, just hold on a minute, Paul. Paul.
I will do, mate. I will.
Just hang on a second, Paul, please. Right.
Yes, mate.
There are other people in the room that are wanting to speak and get on. And Kimberly's show starts. The Welsh Protection Girls will be here in just a few minutes. So I've got to make way in only a few minutes. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take this time. I know Sandy hasn't had a lot to say tonight. What do you think, Sandy, and you're listening to what you've heard? You're muted at the moment, Sandy. I had to come on the phone because of technical problems. You there, Sandy, or not? Sandy's not listening. Can you hear me now, Sandy, or not?
That's better. I wasn't getting off here. Couldn't get a bloody mic to... I lost it halfway through that.
We've only got a few minutes, Sandy, so you're going to have to be brief. Do you want to say a few quick things before we go?
Just to Charles, what we were talking about Quarriers Orphan Homes, I'm taking that route, Charles, and it'll be happening next year. So justice will be done.
All right, mate.
Good stuff.
Charles, do you want to say a final word before we go?
Is that Black Lives Matter? You know, what's really remarkable when I hear...
Charles is watching something else.
Black Lives Matter? Is that what he really said?
No, he's watching TV. I think I'm watching some other stream.
Who said that?
No, I was also listening to the Millwall fans at the football, if you know what I mean, bullying and that, if you know what I mean, and these commentators were reporting on it, you know what I mean, sort of thing.
Do you want to add anything before we go, Charles, on that one?
What, Black Lives Matter?
No, Charles.
Oh, no.
All lives matter.
Black felt tips matter.
Yeah. No, it's been good education. Like I say, we all have his own agendas, his own thingy, but we all stay and stick together, no matter what side of the coin we belong to or whatever.
There's no such thing as coins, Charles. It's no.
All coins matter.
Right, the room.
Sandy, quick one. They're talking about your future wife to be an EU official.
Are you still there?
You're my number one, Charles.
Well, what I'm going to do now, because you should be the girl. Kimberly, you there? You there, Kim?
Just give Kimberly a chance.
I knew. Just trying to get a dial on, I am.
I can't see you on the camera. I've had to go onto my phone because my laptop was playing up. And
I got the blame.
Hey, can you see my hat?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, the badge.
Right, give me a second, guys. I'm going to change the name over to Kimberly's name on the screen. Give me just 1 second. Hang on.
See you later, Alan.